Cold dread pierced Alara as she overheard Jasper and his mother, Mrs. Blackwood, through the thin porch wall. The nausea that had plagued her for weeks wasn't just morning sickness. Now she knew why. The words of the opportunistic mother, echoed by her son's weak excuses, wove a monstrous pattern. They were poisoning her, deliberately, getting rid of the unwanted child, the future heir not of their bloodline, so the house and land would be entirely theirs. Her heart hammered like a trapped bird in her chest. What could she do? Where could she run? Proving anything would be impossible. Who would believe a frail, pregnant woman against respectable village folk? There was only one place left where she might not be turned away. The only person who could possibly protect her, even if he hated her. Alara's childhood reeked of manure and endless toil. From the moment her father brought Seraphina home, life had become a ceaseless chain of chores. Her stepmother, like a bird of prey, sought advantage in every corner of their meagre existence. While her father, Silas, worked rotations in the city, the entire burden of the farm fell on Alara's shoulders. She didn't complain. Silently, she weeded endless potato fields, fed the growing herd of livestock. Her father, when he visited, seemed a ghost, broken by Seraphina's will, her eyes gleaming not with love but calculation. He supported all her ideas for expanding the farm, believing promises that they would soon be rich, and he could quit his hateful job, be home. Alara, however, dreamed of something else, of studying, of the city, of a breath of freedom from this stifling world. Her only solace was Reese, a friend since diapers. He waited for her after school, walked beside her, kicked pebbles, and looked into her eyes with worry. "She'll work you to death," he grumbled, seeing her fade. "You won't get that gold medal now." Alara just waved it off. What was the medal for? No one would let her go to university anyway. One day, news startled the village. Wolves, emboldened, had attacked the yard of Reese's neighbour, Old Man Abernathy. The old man, well into his 90s, rushed out with a rifle, but in the commotion, accidentally shot himself in the leg. The noise scared off the wolves, but the old man lay bleeding. The whole village rushed to help, bringing whatever they could for the old man who had no one but his son and daughter-in-law. Only Seraphina's house remained aloof. "Old fool," the stepmother snapped. "No need to be running around the yard at that age." Her father, as always, was tipsy, and Alara knew her opinion didn't matter. Later, taking what little provisions she could gather, she slipped away to Old Man Abernathy's. He was sitting on the porch, squinting in the sun. "Hello, little Anastasia," he rasped, mixing up her name. Alara smiled. Reese sat beside him. Working with Reese in the field, where her stepmother had sent her as punishment for something, they had met the old man. He had come, limping, with vegetables from his garden. Sitting by the campfire smoke, Old Man Abernathy told stories. He also spoke of Seraphina's past, of her first husband, whom she supposedly also worked to death with farm chores, and how she was left with nothing after he died, because the inheritance went to his sister. "She latched onto your father after that," the old man concluded. Alara wondered for the first time, did her father know about his wife's past? Or had blind love and alcohol clouded his mind? Seraphina met her as always, with a torrent of reproaches and accusations from the doorstep. "A burden. I'm hauling you around because of your drunk father, and if you show up here with your brattling, out on the street you'll go in a flash." Alara barely held back tears, knowing any argument would bring more chores. She silently went to her room, changed, and slipped out of the house, deciding to skip dinner. That evening she heard voices from the kitchen. Her father and stepmother weren't shouting. They were talking. It was so unusual that Alara froze by the door. Soon Seraphina called her in. Her father sat at the table, sober and grim. Her stepmother, pointing to a chair, dryly laid out the terms. Her father would stop drinking and work 3 times as hard, and Alara could study. But if he relapsed even once, she would drop everything and come home. Alara agreed without hesitation. Get out of here at any cost. The city greeted her with indifference. Studies came easily, but dormitory life felt foreign. Getting to know Brandon, a local guy, brought no warmth. He was polite but featureless, lived with his mother, and Alara felt empty beside him. She rarely visited the village, trying to leave as quickly as possible. A call from the village council abruptly ended her city routine. Her parents were gone. An accident. Returning to the empty house was a nightmare. Neighbours, fellow villagers, everyone offered sympathy, remembering her father who had turned his life around, and her stepmother who had settled down after he stopped drinking. Alara listened through a haze of grief and bewilderment. What now? Rhys appeared on the doorstep, matured, strong, with an unfamiliar adult sadness in his eyes. "Hey, Alara!" "Hey, Rhys." The words felt awkward. They sat in the kitchen, not knowing what to say. They drank, and drank some more. Grief, alcohol, years of separation, it all mixed together. Alara woke up with a pounding headache seeing Rhys beside her. Panic, shame. "Please go," she managed, hiding behind a made-up fiancé. His eyes narrowed. Then he got dressed and left, leaving a burning residue of guilt in her soul. Later at the cemetery she saw Old Man Abernathy. He was waiting. "Saw Rhys bolt out," the old man said directly. "Breaks my heart. He's leaving. His mother's crying." Alara didn't know what to say. She couldn't shatter her dream of the city, of another life. She walked past the old man, feeling his gaze on her back, but didn't turn around. As she prepared to leave, she promised her neighbour Aunt Agnes a young heifer in exchange for looking after the farm. Aunt Agnes, the mother of Clara, the very girl Alara had once envied, suddenly became talkative. "Clara's back, you know, with a child. Barely escaped her husband. Got pregnant. Thought she'd find salvation." Alara's world tilted. Salvation in the city? In marriage? Just then, Rhys burst through the gate, pale, terrified. "Alara! Grandpa's bad. Our paramedic's drunk. You're a medic, help!" Alara, without a second thought, grabbed her first aid kit. Old Man Abernathy lay breathing heavily. Heart. Alara did everything she could. The old man got better, but he refused to go to the hospital. "Everyone has their time," he chuckled, looking at Rhys. "Don't try to cheat fate." Rhys stood nearby, distraught. "The paramedic drinks, and I need to leave," Alara said, looking at him. "New job." Rhys didn't look at her. "Go," he replied dully. She left, but turning back, she didn't see him in the yard. For the first time, she wanted to stay. She missed her bus. She stayed. Old Man Abernathy died a few days later. A fellow villager she ran into in the city dropped the news casually. Guilt gnawed at Alara. Rhys probably blamed her. Her attempt to go back to Brandon failed. His mother, an arrogant woman, met her at the door and flatly stated that Brandon had found a suitable city girl. When Alara mentioned the house and farm, the tone immediately changed, but Alara, feeling like an object, turned proudly and left. That evening, Brandon himself showed up, fawning, hinting at difficulties and a need for support. Alara, seeing right through him, scrawny, sweaty, greedy, cut him off by inventing inherited debts. He vanished. Alara returned to the village for good. She got a job as the paramedic replacing the drunkard. The clinic was in disrepair, but Alara, together with Clara, who had returned from the city, fixed it up. The village women, initially distrustful, came to respect her. Life was getting better. Only Rhys wasn't there. He was working somewhere far away in a logging camp, coming home only on weekends. One day, men rushed into the clinic carrying Rhys. He was wounded, bloody. An accident at work. As Alara dressed the wounds and put in stitches, one of his crew chiefs whispered, begging her not to send Rhys to the city, not to report it to the hospital. Otherwise, they would all lose their jobs. Alara, looking at Rhys's pale face, nodded. Helena, Rhys's mother, arrived immediately. She stayed to care for her son. Alara came every day to change the bandages. As he recovered, Rhys became more withdrawn, distant, and then he said, "You don't have to come anymore." Tears welled up in Alara's eyes. "I'm getting married," he added, as if dealing a final blow. To a city girl. Alara ran out, not knowing what she was doing. In anger and despair, Wanting to get back at Reese, she agreed to go to the club with Liam, a local guy who had been in love with her since childhood. He was simple and kind, but next to Reese, he seemed invisible. At the club, she saw Reese with an unfamiliar girl. Her heart clenched. She pressed herself against Liam, pulled him onto the dance floor, deliberately leading him closer to Reese. When Reese demonstratively kissed his companion, Elara, without thinking, lunged and kissed Liam. Reese vanished from the crowd. Elara walked home alone, leaving a confused Liam behind. Reese was waiting for her at the gate. He smelled of drink. Drunk, he was rough, insistent. He led her into the barn. The night became a nightmare, a mix of fear and pain. In the morning, he left without a word. Elara was left alone with her despair and shattered hopes. She lay in bed all the next day, feeling empty. That evening, she decided she had to talk to Reese. In the morning, just as she arrived at the clinic, Liam appeared with a bouquet of asters. He beamed, talking about how much he'd missed her. Elara felt guilty for how she had used him. But then Clara appeared in the doorway. Elara! Oh, Mrs. Sterling's bad! Reese's mother! Hurry! They raced over. Clara, breathless, told her. Reese had left that morning, with suitcases heading somewhere far away. His mother was sitting on the bench, head down, and then she collapsed. Elara ran on autopilot. Gone again. How could he? Helena lay there, her face twisted from a stroke. Elara gave injections, yelled at Clara to call an ambulance. Clara, seeing Liam at the gate, sent him for help. Elara went with Helena to the city hospital, leaving the farm in Clara's care and getting a promise from the village council director to send a car for her. Helena pulled through. Tough country stock, the doctor said. Elara returned home, tired but relieved. At the bus stop, Brandon was waiting for her, again. His attempt to win her back, motivated purely by financial troubles, was pathetic. Elara coldly brushed him off. Liam, who appeared, tried to step in, but Brandon, as he left, threw an insult at her back. Elara ran home, unable to hold back tears. Liam followed her, trying to talk about marriage. A few days later, Elara went back to the hospital. Helena was recovering. In the ward, Elara saw Reese feeding his mother. He was distant, almost cold. After talking to his mother, Elara left. Reese followed her. Thanks for saving Mom, he said, but immediately added, but you couldn't save the old man. You left. Elara tried to explain that old man Abernathy couldn't have been saved, but he didn't listen. I'm getting married soon, he repeated. Elara, on the verge of breaking down, confessed her love. He just smirked wryly. Well, you'll love someone else. You get over things quickly. And he walked away without looking back. Again, Liam and his mother, Mrs. Gable, were waiting at the gate. Elara felt a sense of doom. Fate, she thought. Mrs. Gable, as if inspecting merchandise, appraised the house Elara. Bluntly, without beating around the bush, she declared, Elara was an old maid for the village. Liam was stuck. They needed to marry to combine their assets. Elara, pouring herself some brandy that Patience had brought her, agreed. Mrs. Gable got tipsy and fell asleep. Liam stammered apologies for his mother. Elara, looking at him, agreed to the marriage. That night in bed, feeling a stranger's body beside her, she cried. It was all because of her hurt over Reese. You'll get used to it. Then you'll love it, she whispered to herself, remembering his words. The pregnancy brought not joy, but panic. The child was Reese's. Just before the wedding, Elara decided to tell Liam the truth. He was flustered, talked to his mother, and they decided to hide it. The wedding was uneventful. Liam didn't work. The family lived on Elara's income. The morning sickness became unbearable. Nothing helped. Elara went to the city to a doctor. Tests were normal. The doctor suggested an external cause. Returning, Elara overheard Liam and Mrs. Gable talking about the herb and Reese's return. Through her horror, she understood. They were poisoning her to kill the child because they feared Reese would find out and claim the inheritance. Fear paralysed her. How to prove it? As soon as Liam left for the herb, Elara, barely able to move her legs, quietly slipped out of the house and, like a ghost, made her way to Reese's house. Only there, with him, was salvation. On the doorstep, to her shocks, stood Reese himself. Seeing Alara, her pale face, her tears, Reese was startled. "What? Is he hitting you? I'll pulverize him," he shouted. "No!" Alara gasped, and then it all came pouring out. In Helena's house, warmed by her care, Alara told everything. About the pregnancy, about Reese being the father, about the poisoning. Helena was horrified. Reese, listening, clenched his fists. "They want to destroy my child," he roared. Helena called Mr. Peterson, her friend, a former policeman. He came, listened, calmly assessed the situation. "Traces of the herb will remain," he said. "We need authority." He called his son, an active investigator. Alara was told to stay in the house, not to be seen by anyone. The next morning, Reese woke her. He was smiling. "Get up, hero," he said. "You need to give a statement. Your relatives have been taken in." He told her how Liam and his mother, in a panic, had returned home, looking for Alara, and had left the herb in the car. Mr. Peterson and his son found the evidence. Alara gave her statement, feeling safe for the first time in a long while, surrounded by Helena and Mr. Peterson's care. That night, Reese came to her room, lay down beside her, and held her. She fell asleep in his arms, feeling protected. In the morning, he was gone. Helena sat in the kitchen, upset. "He left," she said. "Said he needed to figure things out." Alara felt the ground give way beneath her. Again. She returned to work. Life went on. Helena and Mr. Peterson became her real family, looking after her, caring for her. There was no news from Reese. The trial of Liam and his mother ended. Alara felt ill right there in the courtroom from their screams and curses and was taken away early. Labour began unexpectedly. Alara called the ambulance herself. In the ward, she shared a room with 2 other women. One was expecting her third, the other, like Alara, her first. Both had been left by men. Alara shared her story, finding understanding. A baby girl was born. The doctor, smiling, said, "A princess!" Alara drifted off to sleep, thinking of her little princess. Helena called every day, visited, cried with happiness. On the day she was discharged, the weather, as if on cue, cleared up after long rains. Alara was packing her things. Her roommate hugged her. "Your Reese will definitely come to his senses." Alara just smiled sadly. She walked out into the hospital lobby. Standing right in front of her was Reese, in a suit, unusually serious. A nurse brought out the baby. Reese rushed towards her. "Are you the father?" the nurse asked sternly. He nodded blankly. The nurse placed the bundle in his arms. He peeked inside, then looked up at Alara. "She's so tiny." Alara flinched. "What are you doing here?" she asked sharply. "Meeting you, Mitsanis," he replied. "You didn't need to." Alara cut him off, taking her daughter. "We would have managed just fine." She walked towards the exit. Reese rushed after her, overtook her, stopped in front of her. Pale. "Alara, forgive me, I was a fool. Marry me." Alara froze. She wanted so badly to say yes, but she held back. "I'll think about it," she replied. Helena and Mr. Peterson were hurrying towards them. "My dear, my darling!" Helena hugged her, and tears welled up in Alara's eyes. "My darling!" How many years since she had heard that word? They got into the car. Reese was driving. Alara watched how carefully he avoided potholes, as if he wasn't just driving a car, but precious crystal. Helena leaned over and whispered, "That's right, my dear. He's a blockhead. But let him understand how wrong he was." And she sat back up straight, as if nothing had happened. Alara quietly laughed. With a mother-in-law like this, she seemed lucky. The wedding, 3 months later, was everything Alara had always dreamed of. A lavish dress, a house full of guests, laughter, wishes for bitter. Reese had lost weight over these months, but his eyes shone. After work, he'd rush to her, shower their daughter with toys and books. "She'll grow a little, and we'll draw here," he'd say, showing her colouring books. Alara, looking at him, just shook her head. What am I going to do with you? She smiled. I'll have to keep an eye on you. You will, he agreed, sweeping her into his arms. You'll be the happiest woman, I promise. And she believed him.